Hello and welcome to YBT's Lasting Legacies. I'm Stephen Gunn, my co-host, Evan Herrman. Looking sleepy as ever in that bow tie, buddy. Love it.
Thank you.
Who's with us today? What do we have?
We got Paul Daugherty in studio.
Oh man, Paul.
Love Paul. He's the pastor of Victory Church. He's going to talk
right.
to us about the legacy aspect of what it means to receive a legacy, to protect, and to leave one. So you want to stay tuned. It's going to be great. Have a good time watching the show.
Don't go anywhere.
This program is made possible by the generous support of OklahomaBanner.com. Oklahoma Banner is a locally owned company providing custom-designed full-color banners shipped directly to you. They offer a wide variety of banner products. Visit OklahomaBanner.com today.
It's been said that life is about capturing moments. So I encourage you to capture this moment right here and take a picture of my contact information to reach out to me later. It is most important when you find a real estate agent to find one with the ability to communicate with all involved, knowledgeable about the real estate market, and one's ability to negotiate contracts. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home within the next year, reach out to me. I'd love to see how I can help you reach your goals. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you so much today for joining us on this great episode of Lasting Legacies. My co-host, Stephen Gunn, and our good friend, Paul Daugherty. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Man, let's just jump right into it because I'm super excited to have you.
Yes, it's an honor to be with y'all.
So, I guess to start off with, I have a couple questions here. One was, what was it like being raised in a legacy? And then also, you know, growing up in the church that you're a pastor of.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like, growing up as a kid, you know, your dad's your dad and everything like that. But there's a point where you kind of took on that legacy. Just kind of share with us your background on all that.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's interesting because you and I went to college together.
Right.
Stephen and I grew up together in the church. You were my sister's age, Sarah, my older sister, and helped me out in children's church and youth. And it really is wild growing up in the church that I pastor now, and seeing people that served in the nursery when I was 3 years old. And I remember them. And I remember teachers that I had in kindergarten and first grade that now work for me, right? And so it was crazy that they raised me and now I'm their boss, you know, or I'm their pastor. And our church is more than a church. We're a Christian school. Right. Kindergarten through 12th grade. We're a Bible college, first year, second year. A lot of our students transfer into Oral Roberts University and vice versa. Students from Oral Roberts University will come to our Bible school. And then we've got a camp and a dream center. So all of those areas make up several different moving pieces, moving parts that shaped who I am today. So as a kid, you know, growing up, watching my dad preach, watching my mom sing and lead worship, my sisters. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, so my sisters Sarah and Ruthie and my older brother John, we all were involved in the church. We were raised by the church, but we were also serving in the church. Right. So we were volunteering in kids, and I volunteered as a connect group leader and as an usher and as a greeter and served in our after-school care with children in the school. And so it's awesome knowing that, you know, I spent time in every hallway, every stairwell, served in so many different positions that when it came time for me to step in as pastor, I had the full scope of what we did and how we did it and why we did it, the DNA, the heartbeat. And I think anytime someone's going to take over for a pioneer, right. You know, like I look at my parents, they pioneered the church. At some point, the pioneers of any organization, they pass on, right? You know, I think about how Oral Roberts is now in heaven. Mm-hmm. And every time there's a transition that takes place after the pioneer, you lose a little bit of the original DNA from that pioneer. And knowing that, like, I was raised by those pioneers, I was raised by my dad and mom, it even more so, like, it means more to me. Like, this isn't just a church that I took over for some pastor and I was there for 2 years and I sort of know why he loved that church. Like, I know why my dad bled for our church and cried and sweat,
literally
blood, sweat,
bled.
tears. Yeah, literally. I mean, my mom and dad gave their life to build the local church and to build the Christian school and the camp. And my mom's still alive. She serves in the church with me. And so, yeah, I hope I answered your question, but it's an amazing thing to be a part of. I stand on the shoulders of giants, generals in faith. My dad and mom are my heroes. And so I never thought as a kid that I would pastor Victory. I thought I would serve my parents until we all went on the rapture together, to heaven. Because my dad would always say, we're going to go on the rapture together. So I just always thought, well, we'll just be here until Jesus comes back. I never imagined that my father would die, would pass away. And I never thought that I would be the one to fill his shoes until the night that happened. So,
wow. That's heavy, and also there's a lot of information in there about how you're talking about being raised by the people that you are now serving, and just the heart of the vision that you've been able to have and experience from such a young age. And I think one of the biggest takeaways in passing on a legacy to your family members, one of the things that I loved that you hinted at is you were a part of so many different areas, and whether it be in business or in life, like when you have children, I'm talking to our viewers out there that want them to carry on a legacy or something that you're doing, is that you have them participate in what you're doing, not just push them off to the side. And it sounds like, well, it's obvious that your parents did an amazing job of that. So,
well, and my dad and mom, they didn't give us a choice. When we were younger, they were like, "You're going to church.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
You're going to be there when the doors are open till the doors close." And,
you don't have to, you get to go to church.
Yeah, that was exactly what my dad would say. We get to go to church. We get to go on these mission trips. And he would bring us.
Awesome.
When I was 6 years old, I went on my first mission trip with my parents. And they took us to Mexico. We went to Roca Blanca, Oaxaca, Mexico, the southern part right by the Pacific Ocean.
Love that, yep.
So by the time I was 6 years old, I was exposed to people that had way less than I had. So they knew what they were doing in bringing us along. They were cultivating a heart
That's awesome.
for God and for people.
Yeah, wow. We're going to pause right there and take a break for our sponsors. We'll be right back.
This program is made possible by the generous support of the Demand Project, a nonprofit organization fighting to eradicate sex trafficking and the sexual exploitation of children. To find out how you can help, please visit thedemandproject.org today.
Could your business or organization benefit from TV advertising? KGEB Tulsa TV 53 broadcasts from the campus of Oral Roberts University and reaches the greater Tulsa metro. Contact us for more info at 918-488-5300.
Do you suffer with migraines, seizures, neuropathy, dementia, or movement disorders? Discover an independent concierge neurology practice with treatment from a Christian perspective by Dr. George Gonzalez.
And we're back with Lasting Legacies. I'm Stephen Gunn, my co-host Evan Herrman.
Hey.
Our guest today is Paul Daugherty. So glad to have you here with us.
Glad to be here.
Let's jump back into it here. So, Paul, you talked about kind of that taking over the legacy, right? Mm-hmm. Tell a little bit about maybe the lessons that someone can apply from taking the baton.
Yeah.
So that's that organization, that's, churches obviously in your spectrum, but there's a lot of things in life. You take something from somebody else in a good passing that on.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, I think it's key what you said. Some people take it and some people receive it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the best transitions are the ones where someone receives it and doesn't take it from their parents or take it from their predecessor. And so I've seen transitions gone super bad, super south, just because being in a transition myself, people have reached out to me, they've asked me questions, they've talked to me, they've shared with me their stories, and I've heard horror stories where someone was forced out by the board or forced out by the younger guy that was stepping in that was just ambitious and hungry and just kind of Absalom, type of story.
Yes.
And for those who don't know the Bible, Absalom in the Bible was the son of King David, the famous king that slayed Goliath. And Absalom basically tried to take the kingdom from his dad.
Yeah.
Turned into a civil war, blood, guts, all of it, and ends up losing. And King David has to pick up all the messy pieces. That happens in churches, that happens in businesses, where it's just not done right. There's dishonor, there's discord, there's strife, there's team team the pioneer guy that started it, and team the next guy who's trying to take it over.
Right.
And anytime you start creating teams and trying to have camps, it's headed south. And if that's someone, if you're watching right now and you're finding yourself, wanting to lean towards a certain person and away from the other, and the other still hasn't passed it down, I just encourage everyone out there who's in a transition, honor the people that God has placed in this position. And when it's time for them to pass off the baton, they will. Yeah. And if they don't, God will judge them for that. But it shouldn't be us trying to rip it out of people's hands. And I think about how the best thing we can do. David was under Saul, right?
Right.
And
That's such a good story.
Saul's heart was toxic. Saul was jealous. Saul was angry. He's throwing spears at David.
Yeah.
But David said, "I'm not going to touch him."
God's anointed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
God,
Absolutely.
when you want him to go, you're going to remove him, or he'll remove himself.
Right.
He'll self-destruct, which happens in a lot of cases where people's leadership becomes so toxic that they basically disqualify themselves from their position and they're no longer fit to lead. But I think the best transitions, my mom and I, we had our transition, and honestly, it was super powerful. It was smooth. There was nothing, like I look back on that whole transition, there's nothing I would look at and go, oh, that was bad. It was all smooth. When my dad passed away in 2009, my mom stepped in as the interim pastor for 5 years. It was tough. She had one of the toughest jobs in the world. She was a female leading a church that was really ran by a male for 28 years.
Right.
And she was the co-pastor, but he was really the lead face, the lead voice. She never preached a Sunday until the week after he passed away. So then all of a sudden she's preaching every weekend. People missed my dad. People had a hard time embracing a female as the senior pastor. They tried to throw all kinds of scriptures at her saying this is wrong, you shouldn't do it. And she did it for 5 years, did a great job. But during that whole time, I knew in my heart, someday I felt called to pastor that church. I knew the night my dad passed away, I felt like God spoke to me in my heart, not audible voice, but just this feeling in my heart, someday you're going to pastor Victory. And in the meantime, serve your mom, serve the church, honor your mom, and stay right here. Don't move. Don't try to take a position somewhere else. Don't try to manipulate your way in. Trust me in this. And little did I know that my dad had actually called our board members and said, someday I see our youngest son, Paul, becoming the lead pastor, but he's not ready yet. I was 24 at the time of his death. Just turned 24 years old, been married for 3 weeks. The last thing he did publicly was my wife and I's wedding. And so there was all these emotions. He said, Paul needs some time. And so my mom came to me a year after his passing and told me that he saw that. I never knew he saw that. I never knew that he felt that. And so it was a confirmation in my heart. I said, Mom, it's crazy. I felt that in my heart the night he passed, that someday I would pastor. And she goes, okay, well, hold your horses. She's like, it's not going to happen for a while. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. It could be 15 years. And I said, okay, well, I'm here until it's time. And once it's time, I'll still be here because this is where I'm committed to be. I think one of the best things you can do when you're in a transition is just be faithful, serve, say yes to whatever opportunities come your way. You're going to grow from the ones you hate. You're going to get stronger with the ones you love doing. So my mom would say, I need you to teach my class. I need you to lead this meeting. I need you to do this wedding, this funeral. I need you to go and fire this employee. Some of the things I love to do. Some of the things I hated to do. Who am I to fire someone twice my age that raised me, right? It's one of the toughest things ever. My mom said, this person has dropped the ball in 10 different places. They're no longer doing what I've asked them to do. They're completely rebellious to what we asked as a church, and you're going to sit in the office and let them go. And I'm like, I'm 25 years old. But what she was doing was she was preparing me to have thick skin and a soft heart. Because if you're going to be a leader of a business or a church, you got to have thick skin and a soft heart. You got to love people, but you got to be tough.
That's good.
Because sometimes it's your own friends that drop the ball, and you got to confront them, correct them, and sometimes you have to let them go if they're slowing things down. And so she was teaching me through all those things. 5 years later, in 2014, I stepped in as pastor. She passed the baton, literally. She had a baton.
That's right.
And we had a transition service. We invited the whole church. It was a Sunday night, powerful night. Thousands of people showed up. and prayed over us. Dr. Billy Wilson was there, and Larry Stockstill, and some of the mentors in my life that have helped shape me. And we prayed in that transition, and so now I've been in this role for 4 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Well, let's jump back to a commercial. We're gonna come back and hear more about that legacy and what that looks like, protecting that legacy. What does that mean to carry it and also go further with it? So we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Matt Moore, president of the Young Businessmen of Tulsa. I pray that this program is a blessing to you and that it inspires you to grow in both your business and personal life. Did you know that many people, both young and old, hold a mentality that their success is all about them, when in reality, we know that our success is dependent on how well we can serve and meet the needs of others. Owning a business is a huge responsibility, and success is very important for not only you, but also your employees and your community. If our community is going to continue to thrive, we need to be proactive in promoting a business community that's focused on being excellent stewards in all areas of life so we can create lasting legacies. Today, we have a fantastic opportunity in front of us that could really take our city and community to the next level. Each program we air has the potential to reach over 1 million households. But in order to do this, we need to reach an extra $1,600 in monthly reoccurring giving. YBT is looking for two types of partners, those who can pledge $9 a month and those who can pledge $19 a month. Not only will we continue to share our Christ-centered message, but in order to keep with the spirit of YBT, a portion of each monthly pledge that you give will benefit our monthly Pay It Forward projects in order to help give back to our city. If you decide to pledge $19 a month, we will have your name scroll at the bottom of the screen on each program as a proud supporter. Every pledge is a tax-deductible donation. Will you help me make a bigger difference in our city? YBT has a track record of creating better leaders, and we have raised well over $145,000 for community projects since our conception. Join us as a co-producer as we take this message and program across the airwaves. Help us steward a message that will literally change people's lives forever. To make your pledge, please visit www.patreon.com/YBT.
Thank you so much for coming back and joining us on our show. Again, we have Paul Daugherty, and what an awesome segment we just had. And Paul, kind of going forward, my question for you is, regarding your dad's legacy and the things that he's taught you and the perspectives and the things that people wanted to stay the same, but yet you are your own man. God taught your dad, when he raising his children, not to make them Billy Joe Daugherty, but to make him Paul Daugherty.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love watching, Victory Online and stuff is you are your own person. You're not trying to be someone else, but you are yourself, and you're the right time, you're the right man for the job. So talk a little bit about, protecting your dad's legacy, but also making your own.
Thanks, Evan. Yeah, I think when he passed away, my mom gave me a pair of his shoes. And I actually tried to wear them for a season. Literally tried, my foot was the same size as his foot, put his shoes on, felt like if I preached in his shoes, I would have a better anointing.
Wow.
Right.
People would like me more. I would be a better leader, pastor. And it wasn't working. In fact, someone came up to me, they were like, those shoes look really ugly on you. And they were like, you're younger than those shoes. Those shoes look like shoes for an older man. And I was like, yeah, they're my dad's shoes. They're like, Paul, you need to start wearing your own shoes. And I was like, yeah, but I also knew the metaphor of that was I needed to start being myself. Yeah. And I wasn't being myself for a season for a variety of insecurities and reasons. And so they gave me a pair of boots that were totally like me. They were from Aldo, and when I put them on, I was like, oh, these feel good. They feel like my age. They feel like who I am. Right. And so when I started wearing them, I felt like it was finally time to just release who I was. And I think it's just an ongoing, continual, I don't feel like I've arrived in that, but I do feel like I've made a lot of progress to just be who God's called me to be. And like you said, my parents never tried to, tell us, hey, you need to be exactly like us. They'd always say, hey, make sure that you walk in character and integrity. They wanted us to model that same honesty that they lived their lives by and faithfulness to God. But as far as our personalities go, they
Right.
really said, hey, be yourself,
Yeah.
be goofy, be quirky. With my brother, he was all over the place, and they kind of pull my brother back. That he say, okay, there's some boundaries to who you are.
Yes.
You don't want to be too overboard because you could scare people. And
So
so
I love
think,
your brother, by the way.
He's amazing.
He was a blast in college.
He's amazing, and we work together. And he runs our creative stuff. He does our Christmas and Easter productions.
Such a great.
And so, yes, I do think that it's important in legacies that you give permission. It's kind of like Saul tried to put on his armor on David.
Right.
And David was like, this doesn't fit.
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
wear this, but I can use my slingshot. I can use what weapon I've been working on. And in the same way, I preach in jeans and I preach in, T-shirts and a bomber jacket and boots. My dad preached in a suit and tie. And there's nothing wrong with either outfits. It's
Right.
just figuring out what works best for you. I remember sitting down with several of our older members in the church, and I asked them permission. Can I preach in jeans? Because I had been preaching in suits for my first year, and I just felt like I wasn't being who I truly was at the core.
wasn't you,
And
yeah.
I said, can I preach in jeans? I know other preachers preach. I was trying to tell them, we're not the only church that will have a pastor in jeans, and they were like, okay, But there was a lot of them that came up to me, they said, absolutely. Like, you don't have to ask permission.
Yeah.
Be who you are, and, be how God's made you to be. We just want you to be a man of God. So anyways, yeah, I think that's a key, and authenticity is so important. At the end of the day, if we're not true to who God's made us to be and truly living authentic and genuine,
Right.
then everything is hypocrisy,
Yeah. Wow.
And so I'm very transparent from stage. I share a lot of my flaws, and sometimes my mom will be like, you shouldn't have shared that. And I'm like, well, people need to know that pastors
Right.
and preachers aren't always perfect.
Yeah.
And they need to know that, God uses people that have speech impediments like Moses, or
Right.
have insecurities like Gideon, who tested God 3 or 4 times because he wasn't sure if God was going to show up.
Right.
Used people like, all the different characters in the Bible, Jacob and Isaac. So I always come back to, I think it's important for preachers, pastors, leaders, to let people know that they're not perfect in their authenticity, to have transparency, and to not have this facade of, I've got it all together. The Wizard of Oz, I got all the answers,
Right.
come to me, I've got it all figured out. It's like, nope, I'm more like Dorothy. We're going to find our way there,
Yeah.
inviting the
Scarecrow,
Scarecrow, the
the
Tin
lion.
Man, the lion. Let's all find courage together.
Toto.
There you
Good.
go.
That's good.
I'm from Kansas, so
There you go.
that resonates.
Come on.
Well, let's take a break. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk a little bit more about what the future looks like.
Okay.
So we know kind of the history where we're at now. Let's talk about
Yes,
the
sir.
future.
Yes,
So
sir.
we'll be right back.
Are you looking to get married? Suit Connection is having an awesome wedding special. Buy 4 suits or tuxedos at $200 or more and receive free dress shirts and ties. Search for them on Facebook by typing Suit Connection Tulsa or stop by at 61st and Sheridan in Tulsa. Are you looking for a different kind of fellowship? Come join us for our monthly luncheons on the second Monday of every month. Our luncheon is open to anyone, and we meet at Tiamo's, which is located in Tulsa at 61st and Sheridan. Every month, we host a speaker who is either a local business tycoon or successful leader. To be notified of future events, please text the word YBT 411 to 99000 or visit us at www.ybtok.com.
And we're back here at YBT's Lasting Legacies, having a really good time today with Paul Daugherty and my co-host Evan Herrman. Paul, let's jump in here because this last little bit, it's been amazing so far, so thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
What has it meant for you and Ashley to build/leave your own? So like looking towards the future, we know kind of where you've talked about where you're at now, but what does that mean going forward for you guys?
Yeah. So for us, we want to be true to who God's made us to be. There have been things that we've looked at and said, hey, that's no longer necessary today. And getting that permission, I think first, whenever I was passed the baton from my mom, I said, Mom, I'm not just like you and Dad. I have the same heart for Jesus. I have the same heart for the local church,
Right.
but I'm going to do things a little different. I just want to make sure that there's not going to be this retaliation where you come back and pull the baton out of my hand and
Right.
say, I'm taking over, because that's
Right.
happened before.
Yeah.
And so in that, she said, yes, move forward. And I think it's important anytime someone takes over something to make sure they get that blessing to say, can I make some changes that may be uncomfortable for you, but will help us move forward in the future that I feel like is necessary for what God's called me to do.
Right.
So, I had this one large giver come to our church who was very, very wealthy, owns companies in our city, and funded a lot of my dad's vision for specific big areas in the church. And he had left when my dad passed away during the time that my mom was the pastor, and he came to me and said, hey, I'm starting to come back now that you're the pastor, but I want to let you know that I will leave if you don't do this, this, and this. Now, if you do this, this, and this, I will fund half of the vision of the church. Like, he wanted to be a huge giver, but he had all these things he wanted to do. And I felt like God was saying, Paul, are you going to live for man's money, or are you going to live for my provision and trust in me? And so I looked at him, I said, I can't do that. That's not true to who God's made me to be or what God's called us to do. Now, if God tells me to do that, I will, but you're not God. And he looked at me, he said, okay. He said, is that your final answer? I was like waiting for the candid cameras to come out, like, you passed the test.
Right.
No cameras came out. I said, that's my final answer. And he said, okay.
You did not win $1 million.
No. But what's funny is they left the church. And I felt like God had given me and my wife direction for where we were supposed to be taking our church, what we were supposed to be doing. And about 1.5 years later, there was someone who was in our Bible college listening to me preach, and he said, he had holes in his jeans. He said, I want to sow a check into your church. He said, I wasn't here when your dad was the pastor. I started coming since you've been the pastor. And he sowed the largest check in the history of our church, over $1 million. He gave it to me. He said, my dad and I have had some oil companies, and we made some sales, and here's just a little bit of it. Anyways, it was an amazing moment where I'm crying, and God says, see, if you follow me, you'll have my provision. Instead of bowing down to what men or women ask you to do.
That's right.
So I think it's important to have those convictions even when you're not sure where the provision's going to come from.
That's right. Well, this has been an amazing time together. Paul, thank you for coming. Thank you for spending the time together with us. This has been great. We'll put some information, I guess, for information about you have, like, is it pauldaugherty.com, Victory? What's the best place?
pauldaugherty.org or victory.com.
Okay.
So my personal website is pauldaugherty.org, and then victory.com is our church website. Okay. All of our sermons, information.
Great. Well, guys, this has been about leaving a legacy, inheriting a legacy like Paul has, and it's been amazing. And I want to encourage you, if there's something that God's given you a vision, God has given you something to carry, make sure you carry it in the way God's made you. Be true to who you are, and make sure you can leave that legacy for those to come. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next time, and go to ybtok.com for more information. Attend our luncheon monthly luncheon.
That'd be great.
And look forward to seeing you next time on YBT Lasting Legacies. Have a great day.
Take care, guys.